A lot of people make this mistake, and it is when you're trying to change your world, your 3D world, like if you don't have enough money, you're not in a relationship where you're happy, you don't have the career you want, the car you want, the house that you want. People make this mistake and they try to attack the 3D world. They try to focus on these things that they want. And when they do that, they're actually impressing the subconscious mind with not having the thing, and then the subconscious mind, the universe, the matrix, takes it away from you because you're focusing on it, because if you already had it, you wouldn't be focused on it. So then you're impressing the subconscious mind with that lack, that limitation, and then it takes it from you. So you have to attack your problems from the assumptive world, because that's the only place that we have free will to act, is in the assumptive world. You assume that you already have something, and then your physical body in the 3D world automatically goes and gets it for you, or your 3D world, the people in your 3D world will bring it to you. But the only place that you have free will to act is the assumptive world. What are your assumptions? What are you assuming that you have? What is the conception of yourself? And I'm going to cover that in this video today, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and welcome back to the channel. I got a little new setup. I got a new mic. I'm in a new place, a new studio, but we are going to get into that right now. All right, guys, I love you guys very much. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This is Out of This World by Neville Goddard. This is actually my grandfather's favorite book by Neville Goddard, which even though he was a published testimonial in The Law and the Promise, this was the first book that he ever read by Neville Goddard. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this, okay? So this is what I was talking about in the beginning, okay? To attempt to change the world before we change our concept of selves is to struggle against the very nature of things, because you only have free will to act in the assumptive world. But once you assume something as being done, then your physical 3D self is programmed and to automatically get that thing, or to have other people bring it to you in the 3D world. You plant those seeds. The subconscious mind works that way. You can't just go do something without first having an assumptive feeling. And I wanted to go over that again a little bit more in another video, but talk more about free will. Okay, so there can be no outer change until there is first an inner change. There can be no outer change in your 3D world. Your 3D world cannot change, will not change, until there is first an inner change, a psychological change, an assumptive change. So if anything in your life isn't going the way that you want, don't get upset with your 3D world, because it's from you. If your world's not the way that you want it to be, then it's something that it's your assumption, your present assumption, that is incorrect. That is not the assumptive feeling that you have is not the one that you want. So that's what you need to work on, is changing your assumption. Whatever you're assuming, whatever state you're assuming as fulfilled in that moment is the reason why your world isn't the way that it is. So don't focus on your 3D world, focus on the psychological world. Okay, so, and right here, as Neville says, as within, so without. Okay, so I am not advocating philosophical indifference when I suggest that we should imagine ourselves as already that which we want to be, living in a mental atmosphere of greatness, rather than using physical means and arguments to bring about the desired change. Everything we do unaccompanied by a change of consciousness is but futile readjustment of surfaces. Okay, so everything we do unaccompanied by a change of consciousness, by a change of your assumption or your concept of self, is futile readjustment of surfaces. So you cannot change anything on your 3D world. You cannot do anything to change your 3D world without first changing the assumption that you have of it. Okay, so however we toil or struggle, we can receive no more than our assumptions affirm. We can receive no more than our assumptions, what our assumptions affirm. Okay, so to protest against anything which happens to us is to protest against the law of our being and our rulership over our destiny. To protest, so if you're getting upset about anything in your 3D world, okay, so to get upset against anything which happens to you is to get upset against the law itself of our being and our rulership over our destiny. Okay, so the circumstances of my life are too closely related to my conception of myself not to have been formed by my own spirit from some dimensionally larger storehouse of my being. If there is pain to me in these happenings, I should look within myself for the cause. If there is anything going wrong in your life, anything, whether it's your relationship or the amount of money you make, your career, anything going on in your life, look within yourself. Do not get upset at the things that aren't going right in the 3D world. That's not the way to fix it, because then you're reacting to those things. You're getting emotionally charged about those things, and then your assumption that you're giving your 3D world from the psychological world is going to recreate the same things into your life, and you're going to stay in the same 3D world is the one. If you try to attack the things in your world that you don't like, you're going to stay in that same 3D world. You're not going to advance. You're not going to change it to the one that you want by reacting to it. So if something's going on in your life, automatically just stop yourself right there and recreate the new assumption. What do you want? Say, because if there's things in your world that you don't like, that means that your assumption, your assumed fulfilled state right in that moment is not correct. That means you're assuming failure. You're assuming that you don't have the things that you want. So you have to stop right there and then start assuming. Change your assumption, the assumptive world, the psychological world. Change it right there. And then close your eyes for a second and then visualize what you do want. And then your assumptive world will then change, and then you'll be shifted out of that world that you're living in, the world that you don't want. All right, guys? So that's a very, very good exercise to do if things negatively, or that you have negative things or things that you don't want going on in your life. That's a very, very good exercise to do. Okay, so I should look within for myself for the cause. Okay, so right here it is. For I am moved here and there and made to live in a world in harmony with my concept of self. So your assumption is what your conception of self is. Okay, so when you change your conception of yourself, your assumptions are going to change with that, and vice versa. Okay, so you start assuming a different state. You assume that you're a millionaire, your concept of self is going to change. Or if you have a concept of self of being a millionaire, then of course your assumptions are going to be different as well. Okay, so intense meditation brings about a union with the state contemplated. Like what I said, stop yourself. He's saying intense meditation here can change that, but I'm saying you can do this very quickly with practice. You can, as soon as you catch something in your 3D world that you're not happy with, stop yourself, take a few breaths, and then visualize what you want. What did you want to happen? Okay, so then stop yourself, visualize it real quick, and then take that feeling in as if it's already happened. And then you've changed your world from the only free will that you actually have, which is your assumptive world. That's how you use free will, is by changing your assumptions in that present moment. Okay, so this is very powerful. Intense meditation brings about a union with the state contemplated, and during this union, we see visions, have experiences, and behave in keeping with our change of consciousness. This shows us that a transformation of consciousness will result in a change of environment and behavior. Right here. This shows us that a transformation of consciousness, change your assumption, you're changing your consciousness, will result in a change of environment and behavior. Because once you change your assumptions, your mind will completely change. All the thoughts that you have are going to change drastically. You're not going to react to these things, because that no longer affects your new conception of yourself, because that's not the state that you're wishing as fulfilled. So you're going to be moved to an entirely different world. You're going to experience a different portion of this illusion or virtual reality that we're living in right now. So this is really good. All right, guys. So if we could become an emotionally aroused over our ideals as we become over our dislikes, we would ascend to the plane of our ideal as easily as we now descend to the level of our hates. This is very, very good. I'm going to go over this in detail with you guys. Okay, so if we could become as emotionally aroused over our ideals, so the things that we want, as we become over our dislikes. So this goes into being emotionally charged about things that you don't want in your life. He's saying you would ascend to the plane of our ideal as easily as we now descend to the level of our hates. Because if you are reacting to something that you hate, you're staying in that 3D world where you're going to get more of the same thing. So if you're reacting, you're being emotionally charged about the negative things, and you're like, you don't like, I don't like this, I don't like that in your life, you're staying in that world. But if you were to react to the things that you do want, like if something good happens and you focus your attention on that good thing, then you're going to remain in that world with all these great things happening to you, because that is the assumptive world. That's where your assumptions are going to lead you, because you're reacting to that. So you're impressing the subconscious mind with having these great things. So it's going to keep on giving them to you. It's going to keep because you're being grateful in that moment. You're living the life that you want to live. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and move on here. Okay, so love and hate have a magical transformation power, and we grow through their exercise into the likeness of what we contemplate. By intensity of hatred, we create in ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies, and then it's recreated into our world. Okay, so if you have intensity of hatred, or if you're reacting to that hatred, then you're recreating that into your world, is what he's saying here. So don't react to anything negative in your life, and remember that you are not your brain. Your brain is only meant for calculation. Free will only exists in the assumptive world, the psychological world, to assume a state, and then your 3D physical self goes and gets it for you, or it brings it to you. The 3D world itself, consciousness itself, will bring the thing to you once you change your assumption of already having something. Okay, so qualities die for want of attention. So the unlovely states might be rubbed out by imagining. Beauty for ashes and joy for mourning, Isaiah 61:3. Rather than by direct attacks on the state, okay, so this is it. Beauty for ashes and joy for mourning. Rather than by direct attacks on the state from which we would be free. Okay, so you have to, don't attack. Okay, so right here, do not attack the 3D world. Attack your state, your current wish-fulfilled state, your assumed state. That's what you need to be attacking, is within, and changing that. Not changing the 3D world, but changing your current state. And that's what will change it. Okay, so whatsoever things are lovely and of good report, think on these things. Philippians 4:8. For we become that with which we are in rapport. Okay, so there is nothing to change but our concept of self. There is nothing to change but your assumptions, which ultimately is your concept of self. All right, so pay attention right here. As soon as we succeed in transforming self, the internal world, the psychological world, your assumed state, our world will dissolve and reshape itself in harmony with that which our change psychologically affirms. The end, guys. Okay, so I'm going to run down this one more time with you, all right? All right, so let's go over this real quick again. To attempt to change the world before you change your assumption or your concept of yourself is to struggle against the very nature of things. Things weren't created this way. This is a hologram. It's a virtual reality that we're living in, so it cannot be affected. It cannot be affected because it's not real. You have to go within into the creation, where it was created. The creator is you, and your assumptions are what projects in the world, this hologram. You are projecting the hologram from within. So the only way to change that projection is to change the projector, or what's being projected onto your 3D world, and you do that through your assumed states. So assume you have everything that you want, and then the hologram changes. All right, guys, so give me one thing you guys are grateful for in the comment box below, or anything you want me to clarify, and I will do that. All right, guys, I love you guys very much, and I will see you guys tomorrow back in action.